Good evening and welcome to Yeshiva YouTube. Tonight we're doing Daily Double, Mishnah Yomi, Masechah Shabbos. The last Mishnah in Perek Beis. I'll start Perek Kira, first Mishnah. In the third Perek, Mishnah Zayin in Perek Beis says, Shlosha Zvarim Sorach Adam Lomor B'Soch Beis Erev Shabbos Im Chashecha. Erev Shabbos, getting close to Shabbos, you should say three things in your house. Isartem, Eravtem, Elikos, and Did you take Shumas and Maestros? Because you're not allowed to take off Shumas and Maestros on Shabbos. And Yom Tov, we're going to see it's a takana midrabanan. It's like your masakin. So the makav patish is a malacha. If you fix something or you make a kli or the final blow of a kli on Shabbos, so that's a malacha del right. So similar to that is also if you fix trumas and maitos, you take off trumas and maitos, you're masakin it, you fix the food, and now it enables you to eat it on Shabbos. Eravtem, did you make an Erevei Tchumen or Erevei Chatzeros? We'll talk about that in a second. You can't make an Erevei Chatzeros, an Erevei Tchumen or Chatzeros on Shabbos. Again, the idea is that you're fixing something spiritually. You're giving yourself another 2,000 amos to walk by Erevei Tchumen. Erevei Chatzeros, you're allowing yourself to carry from your house into a yard or from one person's yard to another yard. Adlikos Haner, again, you have to ask, did you light the Nero Shabbos? Nero Shabbos is a mitzvah. You want to make sure it doesn't get the shkia. We're going to see in a second, you're not allowed to light during shkia. You're bein hashmashos, right? Shkia is already gone, but 3 stores have not yet come out. Ein ma'asrin as havadai. Now it's bein hashmashos. Bein hashmashos is the suffix, whether it's yom or laila. Ein ma'asrin as havadai. You can't take out shuvas and mashos at that point. The ein matbilin as kelim. Also, if you have kelim which are tameh, you can't put them in the mikvah and retire them. That's another spiritual tikkun, which is like a tikkun of makav batir, a physical tikkun. So for sure, you can't light nero. That's a malacha d'oraisa of havara. However, you are allowed to take off shuas ma'aser from demai. Demai is stuff that amaratzim deal with. Amaratzim, the Gemara says, "Rov amaratzim ma'aser him." They do take off shuas and ma'aser. So therefore, it's only a chumrah, not taking shuas and ma'aser. Maker, I didn't believe shuas and ma'aser already taken off, so you're not being masakin. Ma'arvin specifically refers to Erevei Chatzeros, not Erevei Tchumen, the Gemara says. Erevei Chatzeros is, there's no smach, there's no makor in the Torah for it. It's just a takana, it's a chumrah, according to the Rav of Tanura. It's a takana they made. Erevei Tchumen, though, there's a makor in the Torah. One opinion, Rabbi Kiva holds even d'oraisa. So that you can't do ben hashmos. So if it's only that's a chamin, you're also allowed to do hatmana. We'll talk about hatmana in the next parak. Hatmana, in the fourth parak actually, Hatmana talks about insulating something. Now to insulate something on Shabbos, to insulate something that adds heat to it, you can't even do it even before Shabbos. Here we're talking about insulating something in a way that's not adding heat to it. However, you're allowed to insulate it because even though you're not allowed to insulate something that doesn't add heat on Shabbos, here, Stam Kederos Roshchos and Ben Hashmashos, the pots are very hot. So therefore, you just put them on the fire because they've been on the fire for a while. So therefore, we're not concerned. The reason you can't do hatmana, you can't insulate, is because you might come to stoke the fire. Here, there's no concern. You're going to stoke the fire. Perek Gimel, Mishnah Aleph. Kira shesikua bekasher gvo and osin aleh tavshil. There's different ways of lighting your stove, right? In the olden days, there's obviously nowadays different ways of heating up your stove, but in the olden days, they had kash and gova. They used to use straw or small pieces of wood to heat up their stove. No tafshel. There, the fire is not so big. So you had to put a tafshel on that, even on Shabbos, right? I'm sorry, no tafshel. You had to put tafshel on it before Shabbos. Shehiyah we're talking about. Keeping it on. You had to put it on to keep it on Shabbos. Begefes uve'etzim lo yitain ad she'igrof ad she'itain as efer. If you heat it up, if your oven is heated with gefet, which are actually peels of olives, or eitzim with bigger pieces of wood, then you can't put something even before Shabbos, leave it on Shabbos until you take out the coals or until you put some ashes on it as a heker, so you remind you not to stoke the coals. Beit Shammai omrim chamin avolo tavshil. All you're allowed to do in the case where we said a kash and gvav, you're allowed to put something, is only water, hot water, but not actual food. Beit Hillel omrim they say even food. Beit Shammai says if you leave it on Shabbos, in the cases where you're allowed to, you can take it off, but you can't put it back. You could even put it back on the fire if you took it off on Shabbos, as long the Gemara explains there's a certain stipulations. One of the basic one is that you have to not put it down on the floor. If you put it down on the floor on a table, then you can't be machzir, but you could be machzir if you're holding in your hands and you plan on putting it back on. That's the conclusion of tonight's share. Stay tuned for Iyam Mitzion. We discuss Mishnah Zayin of Perek Beis a little deeper to find out really Ben Hashmashos is a suffix. So by Isurim Derabanan, which is Tavik Derabanan Lakula, why by a lot of things like taking off Shumas and Maestros or being Matzbil in your Kalim, which is an answer to Derabanan, why were they Machmer Ben Hashmashos? We'll talk about that. Iyam Mitzion coming up next.